Hi, this is Ken Okel. Welcome to How to Prevent Digital Burnout. In this short little lesson, I want to talk to you about some ways that you can prevent this growing problem. So many of us who are working remotely now, we're not having as much interaction with people, and that can be causing some problems. And some people feel like they're not as engaged with their jobs, maybe experiencing a little more stress. I want to give you some suggestions today. Who am I? My name is Ken Okel. I'm a professional speaker. I talk to audiences in person and virtual about ways that you can improve your performance on the job. I pull from a background that includes broadcast news, hurricane relief, and professional ballet. I know, one of those, a little bit of a surprise. At the end of this talk, you'll have an opportunity to download a special guide that I've put together that highlights some of the key points that we're discussing. I find these are very useful because they remind you of things down the road. First thing I want you to think about is dessert. I like dessert. That's often my favorite part of a meal. But I understand that too much of a dessert is not a good thing. If I have too much candy, too much chocolate, I'm going to start to feel full, I'm going to start to feel sick. Sometimes that's how we can feel when it comes to all these digital tools. A little bit, nice. Too many of them can become a problem. So remember, you can have too much of a good thing when it comes to dessert, and when it also comes to making your office more virtual. You got to get the right balance there. Because let's face it, offices are closed, and it's very tempting to try to duplicate every part of that office experience in the remote working world. That is a bit of a challenge. And sometimes it's just not a good fit, and that's where there can be problems. You really need to think about your virtual office almost like you're starting over from scratch. And maybe this is an opportunity when you can improve some things. Project management software. I think a lot more people are using it. These are good for groups of people who are collaborating to know who's doing what, where are they on terms of their part of the project. You get to know those things. In the past, you could be in a meeting room, get together real quick, talk, suddenly know it. Or you pass someone on the hall. Hey, have you finished this part? Oh, great. Bring it over to me. Nowadays, with the project management software, you're all interacting through it. Now, this software can be really good, but you have to remember, the software is often created for a generic team, a generic workforce. Those people may need a whole lot of reminders in order to get their work done. So all the defaults are set for that. There are a lot of reminders. Have you gotten this done? Hey, in 2 days, you need to have this done. In 24 hours, you need to have this done. For some people, me included, that gets to be a little bit much. Having worked in TV news, I worked with intense daily deadlines. So those are wired hard into my brain. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to get it done. I don't need as many reminders. In fact, reminders will distract me from what I'm trying to do and irritate me. Some other members of your team, they may love the reminders. Others may be like me where they're like, would you cool it on telling me the stuff that I'm already doing? So you may have to adjust the settings on these things in terms of how much you're reminding people, giving them notifications. Get that right balance for you and your team so that it's supporting your project management and not just becoming a distraction or, in my case, a source of frustration. I think it's very good to get some communication rules amongst your team. Really decide how much will you be communicating. Again, in the past, when you're walking down the hallway, you can ask a question real fast, or you see someone, you ask 2 or 3 questions. Now it's like a text message, email, phone calls, video chats, all those messages, all that time spent on that adds up a lot. Maybe it's time to talk about how you communicate. If a message is not urgent, does it need to be communicated right away? Or perhaps could someone start a list at the beginning of the day and send it out 1 or 2 times a day, just updating things to everyone. Also, it's good to say this information is just informational. You don't need to reply back. Sometimes people feel like they have to reply. I've talked before about the reply all problem, where everyone's replying to everyone, but no one's really saying anything constructive. Get together with your team and really talk about how do you want to communicate. Another big part of this is after hours. Set up some rules. Do you want people to be able to communicate with each other after hours? Is there no boundary, no barriers in terms of work life and personal life? Or do you want a little bit of structure there? Some people may be comfortable sending out messages all day long. They think of something, they hit send on a message. Others may say, hey, I want to have that off time be with family or other endeavors. Get a good understanding of what's expected in terms of answering messages, overall responsiveness, what qualifies as an after hours message, and what should perhaps wait till the next day. Talk about all these things before they could become a big source of frustration. It may be a good fit in your organization to have some quiet time. Now here we see like a nap time. And I remember naps when I was young, good times. Can't nap on the job, but can we put your communications to sleep for a little while? What if there was an hour a day where everyone agreed, unless it was an emergency, there would be no inner office, inner business communication? People would just kind of cool it and have that time to work on things. Think of it almost like a study hall in school, where you went into the room and that time was for getting work done. Can you do something like that in your virtual remote working environment where people know, hey, guaranteed 3 to 4 o'clock, maybe 9 to 10 o'clock in the morning. You got to pick the right time, but would there be a benefit to everyone if there was a stretch of time where you knew if the phone rings or you get an email, it's not your coworkers, it's something else, allowing you to really focus on your most important tasks? Probably the biggest complaint about digital overload are all those Zoom meetings or whatever platform that you use. It just seems that they're happening a lot. They're taking up a lot of the day and maybe not much is getting done. Again, I want you to think about that dessert analogy I made earlier, because too much of a good thing, not as good. Think about, does the meeting, if it before when you were having it in person, let's say it was an hour, does it really need to be an hour in the virtual world? Could you perhaps get as much done 45 minutes or a half hour? Think about, would that make the meeting less effective? Or perhaps if everyone knew we've got a certain amount of time to get all this done, would you move a little faster? And just because a meeting in person is seen one way, it doesn't mean it has to be a meeting virtually. You may want to speed up the virtual meetings, make sure people understand, hey, if we get started on time, we're going to get out of here much faster. That can get rid of some of the things that lengthen meeting times. Really focus on using that time effectively, because time is a resource. And if you're all just spending it frustrated in Zoom meetings that seem to be going too long, don't have a purpose, well, that's going to be a big problem down the road. I hope these suggestions have been useful. This is a big problem, and it's a growing problem. This reminder may help you. I'm going to put the download information in the chat section right now. If you're catching this later on YouTube or on my website, also include that information so you're able to get the guide. My name again is Ken Okel. As I mentioned before, I work with organizations to help them perform better. I usually speak at conferences and associations. I'm now doing more virtual talks. You want to find out more about them? Go to my website, kenokel.com. If you want to email me, tvguy@kenokel.com. Funny story about that. When you work in TV news, people will often recognize you. They want to say hi, but they don't know your name. So they will do things like yell out, hey, TV guy. And also, I welcome you to connect with me on LinkedIn. When you do send me that invitation, please note where we first came in touch with one another, like through this presentation. That allows me to get a good idea of where you're coming from. As you know, some people on LinkedIn want to do a lot of salesy stuff, not so much for me. So please let me know how we first connected in this presentation. Hope you're doing well. Hope you'll benefit from some of the tips today. Hang in there. I'm Ken Okel. Take care.